Late at night, a man was on the phone, unaware that a masked man was shooting him from behind. However, it was this phone call that led to the killer's release. Today, we'll discuss this bizarre case, the murder of Wu Yang. He Gu is a seasoned and well-regarded lawyer. Just days before, the mayor asked him to defend his son, who was charged with attempted murder. However, He Gu, knowing the truth, resolutely refused and took on the role of his own lawyer. Unexpectedly, he was not only expelled by the judge, but also disqualified, ending his career. The lawyer, relying on his connections, sought to bring the law into the open, while He Gu, now impoverished, made a living by leading people out to sea. He even tried writing. Then, He Gu met an old man who completely disrupted his peaceful life. Old Bai, a retired teacher, had come to the old man's home because his son had left early and he had no one to rely on. He Gu and Old Bai hit it off immediately and quickly became friends. The next day, Lao Bai brought a book he had written to He Gu. Lao Bai claimed that it was a work he had spent several years creating. He Gu readily agreed to write the suggestion. However, he quickly became engrossed in the book. It contained stories of criminals who were murdered, but the killer's methods made the victims appear to have died accidentally. He Gu finished reading the book that day, and its contents left a deep impression on him. That evening, he took the book to return to Lao Bai, but unexpectedly, the police appeared. It turned out that the police had received a report that Lao Bai had died from an illness in Xinjiang. Upon hearing this news, He Gu was stunned. He clearly remembered Lao Bai's case that morning, but unexpectedly, such a thing happened that night. He Gu, holding Lao Bai's book, could only return home. Looking at his writing, he remembered the book Lao Bai had written. He wondered what the meaning of the book was. Because He Gu knew that Lao Bai was innocent and no one knew about the existence of his book, he decided to rename Lao Bai's book to an electronic version under his own name and title it The Murder of Wu Yang. The book was quickly published online and combined with the criminal cases being tried in court at the time. The public had long been resentful of those corrupt officials. This book had become a local sensation after its release, and Haig made a fortune from it, reaching the pinnacle of his life. However, before Haig could even enjoy his newfound fame, the police found him. It turned out someone had commissioned the book from the police. The detective, upon discovering the book, was immediately alarmed because its contents were not fabricated. Through investigation, the detectives found that the book described real murders from recent years, and the details matched perfectly. Therefore, the police suspected Haig was the mastermind. Haig was immediately put under intense pressure, realizing that Old White was no ordinary man. However, facing police questioning, Haig naturally wouldn't admit to this, nor would he admit that he didn't write the book. Admitting that the book belonged to Old White would not only lead to serious legal trouble, but could also result in legal action due to copyright issues. He could only stubbornly claim that it was all a lie. But the police told Haig that their investigations revealed they had never contacted outsiders. Besides the mastermind himself, no one else knew these details. Haig felt he was in a hopeless situation. Even if he now admits that he didn't write the book, Old Bai's only piece of evidence has already been burned. And with Hager writing the book so openly, the police thought he was up to something. Helpless, Hager could only ask his lawyer friend to bail him out. Before Hager even got home, the police had already obtained the evidence. They found a large number of photos of the victim in Hager's home. Seeing the photos, Hager was stunned. He realized he had been framed. Although Hager tried to explain that it was all a hoax, the police wouldn't believe his explanation. Seeing that the police were about to arrest him, Hager had no choice but to talk out because he wanted to find out how this happened. And all of this seemed to be related to Old Bai. Because Old Bai had no relatives, Hager went to the local police station to find out his identity. But the staff told him that there was no such person as Old Bai. The whole thing became even more complicated. Hager realized that Old Bai might not be dead at all, and it was all a hoax. To find out Old Bai's identity, Hager disguised himself as a policeman and found Old Bai's landlady. Wanting to learn some information about Old White from him, the landlady told Hager that she didn't know much about Old White either. She only knew that Old White was an ordinary tenant who paid rent. The only thing that puzzled the landlady was that Old White never used the home phone, but instead went to payphones outside. Hager continued to impersonate a policeman and obtain the phone records, but his appearance was recognized as that of a fugitive suspect. The police quickly discovered Hager and began to pursue him. Fortunately, Hager was skilled in police tactics and successfully evaded the police. However, Hager discovered that only one call in these records was to a foreign country, so he went there to investigate. With the help of his lawyer friend, he learned that the registered owner of this number was a girl named Adult who lived on Garden Street. However, the woman in charge of the house was supporting another girl, so he secretly followed the woman to find out what she was doing. However, unexpectedly, the woman in charge of the house went to the house of a familiar face. The owner of the house was the policeman Hager had met that night, but why was he in another country? This made Haig realize that this person must be related to this matter. Haig secretly followed this person to the school, but unexpectedly, he was not a policeman at all, but a university professor. Why would he impersonate a policeman, and what is his relationship with Old White? In order to find out the truth, Haig chose to leave the house and secretly forced his way in through the back door. Haig immediately went to the mastermind bedroom to investigate. As a result, he made an unexpected discovery in the study. A crow's pendant appeared on the table, and he found an old watch in the cabinet. The watch impressed Haig because Old White had been wearing one when they talked. However, Haig made an even more shocking discovery. In a hidden compartment in the professor's cabinet, there was a human face, a fake face, and a mask. Even the cigarette, but contained the guy's police badge. At this moment, Haig was shocked. It turned out that the policeman and Old White were both the professor in disguise. This whole show was staged to harm him. It was certain that he was the mastermind behind the murder of those unscrupulous lawyers, and the book was also his. Because at the book signing event for Crow's Pendant, the professor once pretended to be a fan to ask for an autograph. But when he figured out the truth, he didn't expect to hear a woman's motive coming from downstairs. The quick-witted Hager quickly lied and said he was the professor's friend and went for a run. It turned out that Hager had already been detained. The police, who had been warned, quickly arrived to investigate. The professor, upon hearing this, tried to shield himself because the woman saw Hager's face. The detective also tracked down and arrived at the scene. When the professor learned that Hager had come to his house, he realized that he might have been exposed. Faced with police questioning, he could only say that he would not talk about this person. But why would Hager do such a thing? The detective was also puzzled. That night, the professor, who was at home, felt a sense of crisis. He took out a gun and waited for someone to sneak up. Sure enough, Hager came in again with a gun, but Hager was completely unaware that the professor had been waiting for a long time. His weapon was taken by the professor. The professor finally learned the truth of the whole thing. It turned out that since Hager became the mayor's son's defense lawyer, the masked man had been targeting him. If Hager hadn't made that phone call, he might have already been sent away by the professor and given a legal handicap. It was only because of his pangs of conscience that he saved himself. However, the professor didn't intend to let him go, so he pretended to be an old man and used his strategy against Haig again. As a result, Haig still had ulterior motives. He used the manuscript of that book as a cover to make a fortune. Then, he would use it as a pretext to frame the professor for the crime of murdering a man. In this way, the professor could not only achieve his own criminal goals, but also achieve Haig's goals. However, Haig also discovered another secret. Through investigating the cases of these lawyers, Haig discovered that the first lawyer who was manipulated by the professor was actually related to the professor. The professor's parents had mutated into car accidental deaths when they were young. As a child, the professor possessed a mutated smile. As an adult, he became a charlatan targeting lawyers with criminal records. When Haig broke into his home, the professor could easily have dealt with him on the spot on charges of fraud. However, at this critical moment, the detective and Haig had already joined forces. The detective, having learned the truth behind the scenes, disrupted the professor's plans. He had no choice but to lower his gun. But just as the detective was about to call for help, the professor tricked Haig into revealing his gun-wielding skills. Seeing this, Haig was stunned. As the detective's gun moved, Haig realized the professor's mind had been corrupted by hatred. He had completely lost his mind in the name of justice, becoming a madman. However, the professor still didn't give up. He planned to kill the detective and then use the detective's gun to kill Haig as well. He could then lie to the police, claiming a shootout between the two had led to a tragedy. Haig was also in a precarious situation. He was currently in a group chat supporting the professor's investigation. Haig detonated a gun and threw it at the professor. The two quickly clashed. Using his superior strength, Haig swiftly subdued his opponent and seized both guns. Haig thought he had the guns under control, but then the professor stood up and laughed loud. At that moment, Haig realized he had made a fatal mistake. He had put both guns under his control. Besides Detective Nick, no one knew that the professor had written the murder mystery. When the professor arrived, Haig would have no way to explain himself to the police. As a lawyer, he understood that everyone would think he was the murderer. Police cars were on their way. The professor, however, confidently believed he had won. He forgot about Lou Duo. Haig decisively chose to shoot and end the professor's life. The police arrested Haig and charged him with murder. But Haig, with the royalties from the book, was already wealthy enough to hire the best lawyer in the area. The provincial police naturally targeted Haig. Unexpectedly, Haig used the very method he hated most to clear his name. Let me start. Regarding this media decision, I've always felt I didn't understand it. However, seeing each case of justice brought to our nation, one by one, is definitely the most needed application of this approach.